The first item for us is the adoption of the agenda, which is, we have a revised agenda at our desk. Do I have a motion to approve? Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Next item is the approval of the April 24th, 2025 minutes. Okay. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Okay, motion carries. The next item, item D, is the recognition of council members, and I don't think we have any council members here, unless we missed you. All right, well, we'll see if someone comes in through the afternoon. So we will move quickly on to the items for deferral and withdrawal.
Thank you. Starting on page 4 of your agenda, item number 3, 2024 SP 060001, 1609 4th Avenue North. Staff's recommendation is to defer to the June 12th meeting. Item number 4, 2025 SP 005001, Martin and Merritt. Staff recommendation is to defer to the May 22nd meeting. Item number 5, 2025 SP 007001, 13905 Old Hickory Boulevard. Staff recommendation is to defer to the May 22nd meeting. Item number 6, 2025 SP 009001, 1004 and 1104 Cass Street. Staff's recommendation is to defer to the June 12th meeting. On page 5 of your agenda, item number 8, 2025 SP 021001, 0 Old Hickory Boulevard. Staff recommendation is to defer to the May 22nd meeting. Item number 11, 2025 SP 025001, Radnor Corner SP. Staff recommendation is to defer to the June 12th meeting. Item number 12, 2024 S 115001, Monroe Park Phase 1. Staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. On page 6 of your agenda, item number 13, 2024 S 139001, the Schular-Clarksville Highway. Staff recommendation is to defer to the June 12th meeting. Item number 16, 2003 UD 003011, Ridgeview UDO, sections 6 and 7. Staff's recommendation is to defer to the June 12th meeting. On page 7 of your agenda, item number, is to defer. On page 7 of your agenda, item number 18, 2024 Z069 PR 001. Staff recommendation is to defer to the May 22nd meeting. Item number 19, 2025 Z016 PR 001. Staff recommendation is to defer to the May 22nd meeting. Item number 20, 2025 Z020 PR 001. Staff recommendation is to defer to the May 22nd meeting. Item number 21, 2021 SP 044002, Germantown Green Amendment. Staff recommendation is to defer to the May 22nd meeting. Item number 22, 2021 SP 059003, 9th and Buchanan Amendment. Staff recommendation is to defer to the May 22nd meeting. On page 8 of your agenda, item number 23, 2025 SP 026001, 4326 Maxwell Road. Staff recommendation is to defer to the May 22nd meeting. Item number 24, 2025 SP 029001, Century Summerbrook SP. Staff recommendation is to defer to the May 22nd meeting. Item number 25, 2025 SP 030001, Altera Nolensville Pike. Staff recommendation is to defer to the May 22nd meeting. Item number 27, 2025 S 063001, 6421 Clarksville Pike. Staff recommendation is to defer to the May 22nd meeting. And that concludes our deferrals.
Great, thank you so much. So we're all on the same page. I'm going to go ahead and read back the list of items for deferral or withdrawal. On that list, we have item 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 11, 12, 13, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 27.
Correct.
Okay, great. Commissioners, that is our list of items for deferral or withdrawal this evening. Can I have a motion to approve? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. The next item is the consent agenda.
Items noted on consent will be read aloud at the beginning of the meeting to determine if there is opposition present. If there is opposition present, the items will be heard by the Planning Commission in the order in which they are listed on the agenda. If no opposition is present, the item will be placed on the consent agenda. As noticed to the public, items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda. So starting on page 3 of the agenda, item number 1, 2025Z001TX001, to amend the DTC central use area. Is there anyone here in opposition of this item? This item will be placed on the consent agenda. Item number 2, 2024 SP048001, 4222 and 4278 Central Pike. Is there anyone here in opposition of this item? This item will be placed on the consent agenda. On page 5 of the agenda, item number 9, 2025 SP 023001, the Courtside Enclave. Is there anyone here in opposition of this item? This item will be placed on the consent agenda. Item number 10, 2025 SP 024001, Kings Lane. Is there anyone here in opposition of this item? This item will be placed on the consent agenda. On page 6 of your agenda, item number 14, 2025 S 037001, Madeline Drive. Is there anyone here in opposition of this item? This item will be placed on the consent agenda. Item number 15, 2025 S 066001, 109 Paula Drive. Is there anyone here in opposition of this item? This item will be placed on the consent agenda. And on page 8 of the agenda, item number 26, 2025 S 014001, the Sherwood Homes at Park Preserve. Is there anyone here in opposition of this item? This item will be placed on the consent agenda. I will now run through all of our items on the consent agenda with the full captions as legal information. As information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Planning Commission today, you may appeal the decision by petition for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Planning Commission's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact independent legal counsel. Starting on page 3 of the agenda, item number 1, 2025 Z001TX001, to amend the DTC central use area. This is a request to amend section 17.37 of the Metropolitan Code to remove automobile parking as a permitted use within the boundary of the 2nd Avenue Historic Preservation Overlay. Staff's recommendation is to approve. Item number 2, 2024 SP 048001, 4222 and 4278 Central Pike. This is a request to rezone from RS 15 to SP zoning for properties located at 4222, 4226, and 4278 Central Pike to permit 314 multifamily residential units. Staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. On page 5 of the agenda, item number 9, 2025 SP 023001, the Courtside Enclave. This is a request to rezone from AR2A to SP zoning for properties located at 3766 Pinhook Road and Pinhook Road unnumbered to permit 22 multifamily residential units. Staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Item number 10, 2025 SP 024001 Kings Lane. This is a request to rezone from RS10 to SP zoning for property located at Kings Lane to permit 48 multifamily residential units. Staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. On page 6 of your agenda, item number 14, 2025 S 037001 Madeline Drive. This is a request to amend a previously recorded plat to modify an easement on property located at 5018 Madeline Drive, zoned RS10. Staff's recommendation is administrative review. Item number 15, 2025 S 066001 109 Paula Drive. This is a request for final plat approval to create lots on property located at 109 Paula Drive, Zone RS10. Staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions, including an exception to Section 3-5.2.d.1 for lot frontage and Section 3-5.2.d.2 for lot size. On page 8 of the agenda, item number 26, 2025S014001, Sherwood Homes at Park Reserve. This is a request for final plat approval to create 26 residential cluster lots and open space on property located at Brick Church Pike at the current terminus of Sophie Spring Court, Zone RS 7.5. Staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions. And under other business, item number 33, to accept the director's report and approve administrative items. That concludes our consent.
Great, thank you so much. I will go ahead and read the list back to you so I can make sure we have all the correct items on the consent agenda. So on the consent agenda tonight, we have items 1, 2, 9, 10, 14, 15, 26, and 33.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, commissioners, that is our consent agenda for this evening. Do I have a motion to approve? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries and the consent agenda is adopted. So for tonight, the two items that we will be hearing are items 7 and 17. But before we move on to that, we are joined by Angie Hubbard, our Director of Housing, who is going to give us an update on the Unified Housing Strategy.
While Abby is pulling up the presentation, I'm Angie Hubbard, Director of the Housing Division at Metro Planning. And if you will indulge me for a few minutes, I'd like to give an overview of our recently released Unified Housing Strategy. As I go through some of this, I will point out areas where the Commission may have some involvement as we implement some actions through the UHS. So what we have, I'm going to go through today. I'm going to just high-level things, but make sure when I'm using terms, everyone in the audience, the public, and you all know what I mean when I say affordable. We'll go through our key findings, exactly how much housing we need, get into those strategies and actions, and how we're going to implement. We call this the Unified Housing Strategy. It's the city's first ever real comprehensive UHS, and it is looking to align across both Metro, our public partners like MDHA, the State Housing Finance Agency, THDA, our nonprofits, our private partners, philanthropy, about creating new and preserving existing housing, keeping people in their homes and connecting them to resources. And then the strategy is how do we respond to these market conditions that are uncertain and changing. There are, on our website at nashville.gov/UHS, we have all of these except for the last item, the annual policy priorities. The executive summary is about 14 pages and it really succinctly summarizes the UHS if you don't want to dive into 200 plus pages of data and actions. But we have each of the strategies saved separately. We have a 10-year implementation plan. And then prior to the beginning of our new local fiscal year, July 1, we'll publish annual policy priorities that are based on what Metro is going to be funding for the next year. But I do want to just make sure we all understand the difference between all the housing studies that are underway right now. You've heard from Greg a few times with the housing and infrastructure study, and that's focusing on our land use and zoning and infrastructure. As I mentioned, I think during the work session, we're coming in with more of a diagnostic approach to affordability issues, but at the same time, our partners at MDHA have their annual action plan for federal funds around housing and community development. All of us are doing community engagement right now. All of our plans are out for public comment. And I know it can be confusing, so I just wanted to take this minute and distinguish between these three different plans. So before we go further, I'm going to talk about what's affordable because that's always a loose term that's thrown around. And there's reasons why, because the state of Tennessee has its definitions. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has its. But when I use it for the UHS and whatever our division does, we're talking about housing that is restricted to households with incomes at 80% or below of our area median income. And who is that affordable to? If you look across this graphic, and we are right now still using 2024 AMIs because HUD just released theirs, but we don't have them published yet locally. But I just want to make sure everyone understands who we're talking about when we talk about the need for affordable housing. On the very far left of the screen, someone working full-time at minimum wage is at 30% or below of our area median income, meaning that their household cost affordable to a one-person household is about $550 a month. These are folks making our city work. They're working in the restaurants that we eat at. They're working in retail centers. As you go on across the spectrum up to the 80%, we're talking about social workers and other people that are in the service and public sector space. And so these are the people that need housing in the communities where we like to frequent, go to eat, go to shop, go to different services and amenities. We need them living in the communities where they work. But before we go further, I have to remind everybody of what we can't do as a city, and that is we cannot require affordability as a condition of zoning. We can't even require it for a new construction permit. We cannot in privately developed rental housing implement rent controls. We cannot intervene in a private sale and require affordability, and then we cannot establish locally any tenant protections beyond what is in state law. We do have abilities to insert some provisions when we have local or state or federal money or incentives in any of the developments coming. So key findings, we have 6 key findings. I know these won't be a major shock to everyone, but first is the increased housing demand, and Greg's really hit on this a lot with the housing and infrastructure study. You all have seen the data around it. Our demand drivers here are a strong economy, job opportunities, and of course, supply just not keeping up. Then we get on into our lack of affordability. Frankly, housing costs are not keeping up with wage growth, and this is putting pressure on many households in Davidson County. The most impacted are single-parent households, followed by Black and Hispanic households, older adults, and households with children. Everyone is experiencing, especially across the renter spectrum, cost burden higher than just typical white households in both renter and homeownership space. And when we have this affordability constraint, people are having to make hard choices about where else they're able to spend their money on healthcare, on other needs. Then the next thing we have is a lack of housing choice. Have you heard of drive until you qualify? That's the situation that we have happening in Davidson County. And it's because people are only driven by how much they can afford. And they're not having the option because of our housing cost of living near where their children go to school, near where they work. And so having those opportunities, but it's also not just about geographical choice, it's also about what is accessible to someone with disabilities. We don't have near enough housing in our city to meet people's disability needs. The next is inaccessibility of homeownership. This again gets back to the affordability piece where first-time homebuyers especially are being priced out of becoming homeowners, but this is also impacting older adults that are looking to downsize. But there aren't any affordable options in their communities so that they can move to, so they're forced to either stay in the homes that they have that might have some pressure on them because of rising housing costs, or they just can't keep up with it, but they don't have another option. Then the last one is a risk of housing loss. This next one is around displacement pressures, both forced through evictions, through foreclosures, and even natural disasters that can damage a home and someone can't return, as well as risk of housing loss through pressure, through redevelopment that's happening in an area, through increased housing costs, but the wage growth isn't keeping up, and again, someone's at risk of losing their home. And then the last one is difficulty navigating programs and resources. We do have a lot of programs across many metro departments, as well as across MDHA, and then through our nonprofit partners, but there's no single entry point. It's very time consuming for people that are looking for resources that are already going through a traumatic experience, and there's limited awareness. So from these key themes is before we get there, that's how we get to the strategies and actions. But before we get there, we're going to talk about how much housing do we need. You've heard Greg reference the 90,000 new homes over the next 10 years, averaging around 9,000 new homes annually. These are both for market rate and affordable housing. And it is key to understand the importance of having housing across the whole entire spectrum. But our biggest gap is for households earning below that 30% of our area median income. We need to add 20,000 of these homes affordable to 60% AMI over the next 10 years with priority for that deeply affordable housing. And there is this ripple effect that comes when not enough supply, people with lower incomes have to rent or have housing that is higher priced, that's creating this whole cost burden. So that's through our data. I'm going to pause if there are any questions here before I really get into our strategies and actions. Okay. So first, this is a great graphic that does show the importance of our housing continuum all the way from homelessness to market rate home ownership. And the arrows, and I don't know if they're easy to see, you start seeing how things scale in both directions. When we start looking at homelessness, supportive housing, affordable rental housing, and affordable home ownership, that's where local, state, or federal subsidies or incentives come in to make these, bring down those price points, because the market's not going to meet us there, especially at for a household below 80% AMI in home ownership or 60% AMI in rental. And we're talking about, for a single family at 60% AMI, someone making $44,940. And for a family of four for that, that's a little over $64,000. So that's who we're targeting with these programs. So our strategies, again, look at creating new, preserving existing, preventing displacement, and connecting people to resources. So our first strategy is about aligning and enhancing our ecosystem so that we can comprehensively address as a city and with our private sector partners our collective housing needs. And it starts with Metro aligning across the different divisions and departments that work on housing and homelessness and our other public partners, but then really having coordination around our resources, but then the resources that exist in the private space. One of the things that I've highlighted here of an action, and I will say there are over 40 actions, so we're not going to get into each of the actions here. Those are on our website, but we did bring down those key actions. And the one highlighted here, which may come before you in some form, is investing in infrastructure that supports housing and communities. That will come through the CIB when you all review that. The next one is around optimizing and growing our financial resources and supporting affordable housing across our public, private, and philanthropic sectors. We have to grow and diversify our funding and our resources. I will say Metro can in no way, shape, or form solve this alone with the resources that we have. And we'll talk the Barnes Fund, for example. We leverage that fund 9-to-1 for every $1 we put in locally. We leverage that with about $9 of other funding. But we don't have a sustainable funding source for affordable housing, so those are things we'll be exploring. But there's other opportunities as well. Highlighted is building and supporting partnerships with institutional landowners, such as faith-based institutions. You may have heard that we were one of the original recipients of the pro-housing grant from HUD that is still moving forward, as far as we know, fingers crossed. But part of that is to create this faith-based development initiative to where our faith partners who have property can partner with affordable housing developers to create housing on their property. But one of the things that we've seen come along, though, is land use policies from the state and federal level that are favorable to religious institutions, how those come to play, though, when you have a developer where the ownership structure might change. And so as Lisa and I have been talking, and these may come to you in some policy changes or some zoning conversations down the road. The next one is creating a range of new and affordable housing choices for Nashvillians that are appropriate across the county. And this will be working a lot lockstep with a housing and infrastructure study because we do need to open that housing supply. We do have a recommendation around evaluating and adjusting our zoning and land use policies so we can boost that housing production. We don't get into the weeds on that conversation. It defers heavily to the housing and infrastructure study. But following along that is a new tool that we have through the state on implementing voluntary housing incentives for attainable housing. We get to define what attainable is so we can make that consistent with how we're using affordable housing. And we are currently working through our various divisions in planning through both the HNIS and the Bonus Height program to launch a voluntary housing incentive. We hope to establish or present some legislation this summer, and then build that into both the Housing and Infrastructure Study and the BHP program. And so I'm sure that will come to you in as we get that launched and developers are seeking, because the Planning Commission will have a role in approving those projects. Next is focused on keeping homeowners in their homes and creating more opportunities for sustainable homeownership and wealth creation. And again, this gets back to how those land use policies can open up and new typologies that can help create more naturally affordable homeownership, not all the way down at that 80% AMI that we may have to subsidize with local incentives, but more to where it's below that average of $500,000 where we are now. It can bring that down. That can align better with some tools like this State Housing Finance Agency, THDA, has for first-time home buyers for down payment assistance. And these can get to those families looking to get into home ownership that are above that 80% of the area median income, but aren't quite at that level to afford that $500,000 home. So that's where the land use really is important in this space. The next is creating permanent housing options for persons experiencing or at risk of homelessness. We had this as a separate strategy because it is so complex. It's not just about what we create and where, but it's also about the operating and rental assistance that's needed to support tenants and to help the building function. It's also about the services that must come in and wrap around the person. And so that's why we have this as a completely separate strategy than just creating rental housing. Next is preserving and protecting long-term housing, affordability, and sustainability. And this is how we use mechanisms like deed restrictions. We partner with Community Land Trust. We've moved forward social housing. We use long-term ground leases to control or to drive long-term or perpetual affordability. And again, this has to be in a project that uses public subsidy. It's not for a private, we can't force this on a private developer. And also how we can reform some of our programs to make sure that we're promoting that longer-term affordability or prioritizing projects that have long-term affordability mechanisms. And the other one that we will be focusing on is maintaining a database on deed-restricted affordable properties that are expiring and having a staff person focused on helping keeping those affordable through other partners that can maybe step in. So that'll be a new function that we're taking on this year. Then our last strategy is strengthening housing security for renters and improving access to resources for everyone in Nashville that's needing them. And this would be strengthening tenant protections in our subsidized housing or incentivized housing, supporting the eviction right to counsel program, and some other mechanisms like expanding and strengthening our Hub Nashville to have that coordination point or that point of entry around housing resources. So that's a lot of information on our strategies, and we have, moving forward, we have an implementation plan that's on our website, and it lists every strategy with every action, who the lead partners are, who our supporting partners are, and Metro isn't always the lead. Sometimes there are actions that need to happen in our ecosystem that the private sector must take the lead on. It's just not the space for local government. And it also discusses the types of resources and the level of resources needed, the priority for implementation, and the timeline. But we want the UHS, it's designed to respond to market conditions. This isn't a strategy that's going to sit on the shelf and we're going to update it in 10 years. We've designed it and we're scheduling engagement around how we can look at what we implement from year to year based on performance metrics, pulse points from the community, shifts in our economy and funding and policy to see what is working, what needs to be adjusted, what we might need to move to the front of the line, because what our priorities are today may not be what's there tomorrow. And then finally, for the month of May, we have a feedback process, an opportunity for people to react to the UHS to tell us what we got right, what might be missing, whether their voices were heard, if they gave us engagement, because the UHS was ultimately formed from both data, but more importantly, the voices of people that came to our community meetings or those hosted by our community ambassador partners and shared their housing journeys. So you can go to nashville.gov/UHS or scan this QR code to access all of our documents and the feedback form. And then we have a number of ways to provide feedback. Of course, today is just a presentation before you guys, the Planning Commission. And then we will start virtual presentations next week where the public can really engage with us. We want to hear from you. It's not really us. We'll present, but we want to get your reactions. We're going to present to the Housing Trust Fund Commission, and then our team will have office hours opened up. The purpose of this, again, is to get the reactions to it, but this isn't the end of the engagement. As I mentioned, for this to be a living document, it means we must have regular pulse points on the community throughout the entire year. So we'll be speaking on this, engaging with different groups throughout the year to make sure that we are understanding how the UHS is being implemented and impacting lives in Nashville. And with that, I'm going to keep it on the screen about providing feedback while I answer any questions you all have.
Thank you so much. That's a ton of work. I mean, this plus the housing and infrastructure study, it's a lot, but it's exciting because it's moving the conversation about housing needs to the forefront, which is something we've been talking about for a really long time. So thank you so much for all the work you've done and are continuing to do and will continue to do.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Yes, council member.
Thank you, and I also want to echo thank you for all the work that you've done on the Unified Housing Strategy. One question, when we talk about the need for a minimum of 90,000 units, maybe even 120,000 units over the next 10 years, is the affordable housing count in that 90 to 120,000, or is there a separate goal of units that we need for affordable?
The 20,000 needed that we're counting as part of the 90.
Any other questions, comments? One thing I was thinking is it would be interesting over time if we could start to tie the cases that we see that come through to where they fit in the policy priorities of the UHS, like to just maybe visually start to see like how things that we, are coming through us will contribute to that.
Well, so Greg Claxton, through his work on the housing and infrastructure study, is proposing, I think, a different way for us to keep track on the zoning side, but certainly depending on how we construct the incentive and how that fits within the code, I think, we're very interested in seeing how that performs. And I fully anticipate needing to kind of recalibrate that over time as we learn, depending on what part of the city you're working in or the kind of housing that we're incentivizing. So I'm really looking forward to that. But yes, we're very interested in figuring out how to test the policy and the strategy.
And I will add that every strategy has a set of performance metrics that will be publicly available on our website. And we also have a housing dashboard that's already started measuring, across what we invest in and how that's produced. But we will continue to work within planning and you on what are the right performance metrics to show this work and in how the UHS is advancing that or vice versa.
Can you remind us of the timeline for when this goes to council?
So this is not a council voted
Okay.
document.
It's not, okay.
You don't have a decision before you, so
Right.
you can ask questions, but the document has been released, and then just according to this timeline, and then Angie, when are we going to finalize?
We will finalize before the end of June, because we will also in June add the new AMI numbers in. We had already gone to publish before we got those from HUD with the some of the other calculations that we use. So we will do that by June before the close of this fiscal year. So when we launch July 1, we're starting with a new fiscal year with the UHS ready to be implemented.
Great. Well, thank you. If there are no further questions, thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will turn our attention back to our agenda. And the first item that we will be hearing tonight is item number 7.
All right, Dustin Shane, staff planner. This is an SP at 5,000 Ashland City Highway. It's a zone change request from AR2A to an SP. Our recommendation is to disapprove. The existing zoning is AR2A, which is agricultural residential, and they want to do a regulatory SP. Policy on the site, the dark green is conservation policy covering a stream and some slopes, and the light green is T2 rural maintenance policy. So this is a regulatory SP request, so there is no site plan, just a document with a list of standards. The site context, this is rural land zoned AR2A. It's currently being illegally used as a building contractor supply business, confirmed by codes. Physically, it's a fenced gravel parking lot with a shipping container, fuel tank, and parked vehicles, including dump trucks. It's located 1,000 feet east of the intersection of Ashland City Highway and Old Hickory Boulevard. So the SP calls for all uses of AR2A permitted with the addition of building contractor supply. We have a condition, if approved, to limit that just to building contractor supply. The SP describes this use as larger construction trucks, parking and fueling for the delivery of construction materials to job sites with no further construction proposed than what's on the site now. It cites the standards of AR2A for bulk standards. It proposes type C buffer yards around the perimeter with the lights oriented inward and hours of operation with the one gated driveway that's on Ashland City Highway to remain. So looking at the policy, T2 rural maintenance, that policy calls for maintaining rural character. This SP does not maintain rural character. Instead, it adds industrial character. That's how that use is classified by the zoning code as confirmed by our codes department. The policy calls for rural character to remain a permanent choice for living. Rezoning with this SP would encourage these T2 RM sites almost as holding zones for future incompatible uses. The policy explicitly cautions against that being practice. And then the policy calls for residential, rural, and agricultural uses and aesthetics being very important. This adds a prominent and visible industrial use on a major corridor, which is not in line with the policy. So we recommend disapproval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will go ahead and open up the public hearing, and I wait till we get everything distributed. So just as a reminder, as we're getting started, the applicant will have 10 minutes for their presentation, and you may hold back 2 minutes for rebuttal. We'll then have opportunities for those in support and those in opposition to speak. And then we will wrap up the public hearing and begin the commissioner discussion. So with that, Mr. Dale.
Okay, here we go. I'm Roy Dale with Dale and Associates. I'm representing, Tom White and I are representing the applicant on this project. And there may be a little confusion on this. I'll take the responsibility for that. That's why I'm handing you the photograph and the other images that are there. So the history is important. I think it'll help you understand where we got to where we are. This property owner bought this land around 2022. He hired us to do a site plan for this property to grade it out, ultimately have a building on it, and to be able to park vehicles there. It went through the process. It was approved. A grading permit was issued. Stormwater was implemented. As-built were done. The stormwater's been approved. And the problem is, like, when I did a regulatory SP, there's no plan that goes with it. Some of the departments may not look at it. We actually got comments from stormwater like, yeah, we were approved with conditions. The stormwater's already in. Or NDOT having concerns about access. The access is already in. So this is an existing graded site in a rural area. And if you look at the map, you'll see it's in 3 different colors. The pink is other commercial property that's close by. The red is a parcel that immediately abuts this that was also permitted under AR2A. There's a building on it. There's about 14 vehicles parking there. So when you apply for a permit, I guess in a rural property like this, you're probably not required to put in buffering or many of the restrictions that you would have under a specific plan zoning. I'd met with the council member. She's fully supportive of this. And I'm really, in my role, trying to find ways to support her. So I felt like that if she was going to support a zone change, or maybe even a base zone change, that we would be better off doing a specific plan and at least adding some restrictions or some requirements that would protect the community and maybe make this fit a little bit better in than it actually even sits today, or even sits when it was originally approved in 2022 and built in 2024. So I think the biggest thing that happened here is when this property owner started using the site, he put these huge poles out there and he had lights out there. It lit this thing up like a parking lot. And I think that had that not happened, it's possible that this may have reached the level that it is today. And so that was a big mistake. And so in this regulatory SP, there's conditions about that light. Right now it has sort of a dark sky requirement, but if the council member wants those lights removed, they should just be removed. So I think there's a way to render this in to make it look more in keeping. It is along a major highway, a 5-lane highway. It's not like a rural track up on the mountainside somewhere. It's close to other commercial. It's close to other uses that are similar. And so if anything, this would be, to me, like a transition. I don't think staff has the ability to make that call. They're just, they're making their decisions based upon policy, which they're charged to do. And so they do a good job. So it's up to the commission in order to maybe listen to the council member, listen to the community, and take all those other factors in consideration. And I think that as proposed, by adding the conditions and restrictions to the proposed zoning, I think it actually helps this property. Whereas if we don't do that and it just remains an open lot for a less intense use, it's not going to really fit in. So Tom's more familiar with the community meetings, and he can talk to you about the council member, which I think is really important. I'm here in support of her, trying to help her get something that I think is going to benefit her community. Thanks.
Members of the Commission, Tom White, 500 11th Avenue North, along with Roy Dale, represent the applicant. At the front end, would like to ask for the 2 minutes in rebuttal, if you would, please. I won't repeat the things that Roy said, but the council lady clearly is supportive of this proposal. She's put that in writing. I've talked to her as recently as this afternoon. She stays supportive, wanted that to be communicated. And I'll mention this with respect to neighborhood meetings. I think this council lady has been very responsible, and there have been at least 2 or 3 neighborhood meetings that have been on this issue. I've attended 2 of those. In fairness, there was a mixed group. There were some that were clearly supportive. The ones who were the most supportive are the ones closest to this intersection at Old Hickory Boulevard, period. They're the closest. There's clearly commercial operations up there. You've got a motor store You've got a Chambly restaurant up there. You've got the Jimmy Lewis Market up there. Those uses have been there for many, many years. Those owners are supportive. They've written in support of it. So basically, the issue in front of the commission is really a policy issue. And I would comment, as we came through Nashville Next, this was one of the last areas where a policy was confirmed. This started when Rick Bernhardt was the chairman. And again, the policy for this area is decades old. And so my comment to you is that with respect to a policy issue, it's the decision really, in some respects, of the district council person. It's a recommendation by the staff. It's non-binding. This commission makes a recommendation. If it's disapproved, we need 27 votes at the Metro Council. We understand the difference between the planning process and the legislative process. But in this case, as you look at the policy for different areas, it's almost always the council person has the most direct influence as you look at policy. And in this particular case, the council has been unequivocally clear about her support for this. And so one more time, it's extremely close to what I consider a commercial hub up there at the intersection of Old Hickory Boulevard. And again, those businesses have not been there for a year or two. They've been there for decades in that operation. So I'd respectfully submit to you it's a good request. The staff has even commented that if this is approved, here's the conditions we would suggest. And they list 11 of those. We're here to commit to you that we would agree to every one of those conditions. So we're urging you to approve it. Again, there's probably nobody more directly influential about policy, especially a outdated policy like this than the district council person. That's very clear. And so with respect to the conditions, again, we'd accept those. We'd respectfully ask you to rezone this. As we talked with the regulatory SP, there's been a tremendous amount of time spent on this issue in the community. We'd ask for that support today, and we'll save our 2 minutes for rebuttal. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We will reserve the 2 minutes for rebuttal. And is there anyone here who is speaking in support of this item? If you will.
I'd like to ask, there's people that are supportive. I've told them they do not need to speak, but I'll ask those that are supportive to please raise your hands.
Okay. Thank you very much. If anyone would like to speak in support of this item, you're welcome to come forward. You'll have 2 minutes. But if you just want to be here to show your support, that's fine as well. If there is not anyone who would like to speak in support, I will open this up to people who would like to speak in opposition to this item. And if I could ask you to step up and line up. You will each have 2 minutes, and you'll start with your name and general statement of where you live. You don't have to do your specific address. And yeah, again, 2 minutes for your comments.
Thank you. My name is Sumter Camp. I live on Tidwell Hollow Road in the Bells Bend part of Scottsboro community. When Mr. Walker originally applied for a grading permit for this property, in question, the application stated under scope of work, tractor storage. Because the property is zoned AR2A, that statement allowed the work to be done to be considered as agricultural, not only fitting the work into the zoning designation, but also excusing him from having to file a building permit for the tractor storage. However, in a codes inspection conducted June of 2024, there was no tractor stored at the site, no structure in which a tractor could be stored, and no farming being done. Instead, a concrete pad built atop a mound of fill and lit by a half-dozen tall lights was being used for parking 15 or more dump trucks. The codes inspector attached stop use and stop work orders to the gate of the parking lot, but later discovered that Mr. Walker had continued to use the property for parking his dump trucks for another 9 months up to March of 2025, apparently taking down the posted orders. The site inspection led codes to believe the application for the grading permit misrepresented the actual purpose of the grading of the site. According to the codes department, had Walker told codes that the purpose for grading the site would be to build a parking lot for dump trucks, he would have been denied the grading permit because such a use would be a building contractor supply use, which would not fit the zoning. Based on that investigation, Mr. Walker was charged with 7 codes violations. That warrant is still pending in the Metro Environmental Court. The misrepresentations of the site did not stop there, however. In the regulatory SP document provided to the planning staff by the applicant, the general consistency note states in part, quote, "The property is currently zoned AR2A and currently contains an area used primarily to park farm equipment However, there is a need in the area for larger trucks for the delivery of materials such as topsoil, mulch, and gravel, and also for the export of materials. I'm going to briefly finish this.
No, I'm sorry, sir. If there's someone behind you that wants to finish, that's okay too. No. You may finish your sentence.
Okay. First, the property in use was not used primarily to park farm equipment. In fact, to our knowledge, the property has never been used to park farm equipment. And the suggestion in the statement that the need to park larger trucks on the property has recently developed, that suggestion is wrong since they've been parking dump trucks there since December of 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
My name's Barry Sulkin. I live in about 1.5 miles northwest of the site. Our neighborhood has been dealing with things that come in under pretense of one thing and then turn out to be another for years. I don't have time to enumerate all those things. We're overrun with dump trucks and dumps that are not permitted. This is just icing on that cake. Please help us.
If you have items that you'd like to hand out, please hand them to Dustin and he'll circulate for us.
My name is Rebecca Engel. I live on Old Hickory Boulevard, around the corner and a few miles down the road from this parking lot, which I pass many times a week. I want to comment on the community's opinions about this request for a zoning change. Our council representative, Joy Kimbrough, has called 2 community meetings this spring to discuss this. Both meetings were standing room only at the Scottsboro Community Club. Mr. Walker was represented by his lawyers and civil engineers. We learned that Mr. Walker had seriously misrepresented his intent on his original application, stating that this was a shed for a farm tractor. We learned that codes had found him to be in violation on multiple counts. We were told that this plan had been cleared with the immediate neighbors, but the one neighboring property owner who was present stated that she had never been contacted, and later others stated the same thing. At the second meeting, Joy Kimbrough told us of her support for this zoning change and presented a petition of 81 signatures in favor. At both meetings, the community was vigorously opposed to the lot and to the zoning change. We created our own petition against the zoning change and in favor of closing and dismantling the parking lot. We collected a total of 396 signatures, which are here, both door-to-door and online. Our method of calculating online signatures provides an audit trail, which you have before you. At least 178 of those signers were Scottsboro locals. The others, persons who voiced their love for the area and their support for maintaining its rural character. There is no doubt that the vast majority of folks in our community are disturbed by the misleading way this parking lot was presented to Metro. We are against this zoning change and would like to see the parking pad dismantled. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tyler Skelton. I live on Old Hickory Boulevard, just down the road from the parking lot as well. And I think all my neighbors have a lot of things to say, and I agree with all of it. And I wanted to thank you all for looking at our community plan. Our community has been clear for decade plus about what our vision is in maintaining our rural character. Sometimes it can look like our community is a no community. We say no, no, no. We actually say yes to a lot of things, but those things don't come here in front of you all. So today we are saying no to this, and we say yes. We have a lot of things we want to say yes to. We'd love to share those, but they're all in our community plan. So please, I encourage you to follow our community plan, listen to what our community has stated over and over again, and let's keep it rural. Thanks.
Hi.
Hello, my name is Susan Chan. I live at 5476 Old Hickory Boulevard, also just about 1.5 miles up the road from where the Walker parking lot is. And I can't add a lot of new insights to what's already been shared, but I was attending that meeting in which the community was hearing Ms. Councilwoman Kimbrough's support, and most of the people at that meeting were pretty passionately opposed for the reasons that have already been stated. And I think one of the really serious concerns with that is what actually Tyler that just spoke mentioned, which is when you allow somebody to come in and violate the existing zoning and then ask forgiveness on the back end and try to work their way into a new situation that they weren't clear about from the onset, then it sets a terrible precedent. And we are trying to protect that area for other uses than the sort of industrial use that's being proposed here. So I think the community is pretty clear on where we stand overwhelmingly in opposition to this. So thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hi, I'm Keith Loiso. I live at 5611 Old Hickory Boulevard, just down the street from this site. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the community planning that's gone on. I mean, it's been referred to as being a very light kind of planning, but actually it's been a lot of detailed work. So the community worked with the planning department for over 20 meetings, over 8-month period of time, developing the community plan. We started by documenting the assets of the community. These are the cultural, the historic, the environmental aspects of the community. And then we even looked at national models. We traveled or looked around the country at models. We even did a retreat up at the Adirondacks to understand what works well, lessons learned, what could we do? Through this investigation, we learned that Nashville is unique to have this resource so close to town. And this is not just a resource for the community, this is for all Nashville and the region. So we're fortunate to have this as a asset for the community. And to add to that, through the planning process, this area of the crossroads was designated as a village center. And really what that is defined in the planning and is really about a place for the community to meet and socialize and to support the daily needs of the community. And I think that this proposed use is really counter to that, and it's counter to the rural maintenance plan. A lot of the work that was done through our planning went forward to the community character plan that Metro uses now. So this is a lot of work that went into the planning, and I think that it needs to be respected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Jim Haney. I live on Old Hickory Boulevard, close by. One thing I'd like to point out is right next to this giant parking lot, which got raised up to the road level, there's a gentleman whose farm got split when they widened Ashland City Highway to 4 lanes. So his farm got split. Well, he drives across all the time and has a beautiful garden there all the time. And I'm looking and seeing them dumping all this stuff. And I'm like, what's going on? This poor guy's got this little farm here and he has a big old garden, and he's still doing it. And I'm sure he's not real happy about this. Anyway, thank you.
Commission. Hi, I'm Brenda Smith. I live at 5071 Pine Valley Road, which is kind of around the corner from this. I just have a couple things to say. And number one, approving a zoning change after the fact is really bad precedent. And my husband and I sat before this commission about 8 years ago to get a special exception permit to build a camp. It took us a couple of years. We finally got it. Haven't started it yet, but we did do that. But what would have happened to us if we'd have just gone ahead and built it, before COVID hit, and then just said, oops, sorry, could we have that permit? That would have saved us a lot of trouble, but it would not have been the right thing to do. And you probably would have just said no. So number two, the attorneys refer to this as commercial, which we do have a commercial corner there. And if this was something that was good for the community, like a small stores, a shop, a salon, a restaurant, something like that, that might be good, but an industrial lot definitely is not giving anything back to the community. And this is the one corner that we have, that we're ever gonna have. And this is the only thing that if we do build some things in the future, it really needs to kind of knit together like a little town area and not a commercial lot. And just number three, it is just frankly unsightly. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hello, Matthew Smith, 5071 Pine Valley Road. Thank you for listening to my comments. This location acts as a visual gateway to the conservation corridor. As you head down the hill on Highway 12 towards the intersection at Old Hickory Boulevard, this is on the right, and it really is the first impression of the location. And an industrial parking lot for dump trucks is not an appropriate presence for this location. About 4 times a year or so, we enjoy going to the local farm dance, which is probably just within a half mile of this location. And invite you all to go to that. It's a lot of fun. Live music and dancing in front of the barn. And as the others said, this is not consistent at all with the vision that we have for the community. And we welcome, as the others said, we welcome appropriate development. We don't say no to everything, but this we feel strongly that we should say no to. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi.
Good evening. My name is Mac Wilson. I reside at 4898 Bull Run Road, which is very close to this parking lot. And it's my position that, well, first of all, I definitely support the resounding opinion that this should not be passed. I look at this basically very simply. It's either blameworthy or praiseworthy. And when you file a petition and you build something that does not qualify for that petition, in some ways that gets down to fraud. And I most definitely do not support the Walker Trucking moving forward in that parking lot position, and I think that it should be dismantled. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi.
I'm Ellen Jacobson, and I am the 5th generation of family farmers that live in Bells Bend on Cleesis Ferry Road. And I lost my barn in the 2020 tornado, and my builder that was there with me for 5 years just died. And at his funeral, someone made a comment that reminded me of what's happening in our neighborhood. And they said his life had a ripple effect. And we see, as we drive in, the ripple effect of illegal projects, the tearing up of land, the illegal dumps that have occurred. And I may be wrong, but I think the trucks that are there are serving illegal dumps from all the new construction through town. And we need your help in stemming the ripple effect of this bad precedent. I mean, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Lisa Calfee, and I have 5295 Old Hickory Boulevard, and it's just around the corner from this. 2 things. One, I'm just going to read so I can be coherent. Bells Bend has had a development pressure for the 20 years that I've lived here. We all know that this is a chipping away of the rural land of Bells Bend, and over time, the chipping away will result in the area ceasing being rural. Once land is developed, I'm a botanist who used to do restoration ecology, and despite everybody's best intention, you cannot get land back to the same quality that it was after it is developed, period. Hard stop. So once land is developed, it can never return to being agricultural. So with that, I would encourage Nashville to recognize the value of having rural spaces close to the city. And speaking of the illegal dumping, we had a house that needed to be removed that was filled with black mold when we first bought property there, and we put a waste management dump thing there, and within a week, there were mattresses in it. It was filled. And then the mattresses, bricks and shit were filled on top of the mattresses. And my neighbor is the solid waste permitting for the state, whatever. He told me, he's like, yeah, they won't pick it up anymore. Because they called and they said, we won't pick this up. I said, why won't you pick it up? Because there's mattresses in it. how am I supposed to get the mattresses out? Because people jumped large slabs of concrete on top of mattresses in this thing. And it took months for us to get that removed. And so I have been a personal recipient of the illegal dumping, and it's a nightmare.
Thank you. Hi.
My name is Ian Rett. My address is 4600 Cato Road. I'm about 1.5 miles from this site. I just want to say that the Nashville Next policy is clear. The land use policy is clear. The planning staff has made it clear that the current use is illegal and that what this approval would do is essentially sanction illegal activity. So I urge you to disapprove and let the council decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? If not, the applicant will have 2 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you. I want to comment, I did not represent this owner when they came through the process to obtain what's there on the site right now. First contact I had was from the council lady where she said she had some concerns about the lights on the site that were shining up and down the road. I contacted the client who I hadn't represented before. They immediately took care of that. I contacted the council lady and she said that took care of the only issue she knew about at the time. With respect to what's there on the site, I do want to comment. There's a number of people here from 1.5 miles, 2 miles away as they commented, but the letters of support are from the people up there at the intersection. It's 3 parcels away. It's less than half a mile away. The Lewis Market and Highway 12 Motorsports have been up there, as I said, for decades. Their letters are here. They're supportive. With respect to the comment about this gentleman that runs the garden next door, I want to make the comment, my information is he's supportive of our request, and we've reached out to him. So I think that's something that should be taken into account. With respect to what this gentleman's done, that is the owner of the property, he does have a great number of charitable things he's done in the community. He's got jobs in the community, much to Lewis Market and Highway 12 Motorsports. So again, the policy in the area has been there for decades. It's outdated. The face of the policy normally is the council lady, as I commented. And in this particular case, I think it's important to note, I did attend one of those neighborhood meetings. I've met with the council lady twice. She's been very clear that she's supportive enough to put it in writing. We know that there are people opposed to it, but at the end of the day, policy in the area is sometimes determined by the council person. We've made that clear. Her position is clear, so we respectfully ask this be approved. Appreciate your courtesies. Thank you.
Thank you. And we do not see the council lady here, but I know we did receive a letter in the comments. So with that, I will declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Clifton, I was thinking you might be a good person to start.
Well, this is very interesting. This area of the city is not a city. It's part of a county. It's close to a city and sort of right in the middle or very much on the edge, perhaps, of a major forest that encircles most of Nashville and which is one of our relatively few remaining natural resources of that caliber. I think we mostly know from past discussions that the value of a forest is different than trees. It provides animal corridors. It provides an awful lot of things that we won't have if we chip away at this area at all. It's a very clear-cut case to me. It is, and the council has their own role in this. I'm not criticizing the council member. That's a different body. It doesn't mean they can't overturn. It just means as a disapproved bill, there'd be a lot slightly higher standard. I'm fairly appalled at where we are with this, frankly, and see it setting a bad precedent, particularly regarding protection of our rural areas and particularly the forest area. I really strongly feel that we need to thank the staff for their work on this and go with their recommendation.
Thank you very much. Other commissioners have any comments that you'd like to share? Any thoughts? Yeah, Commissioner?
Thank you. This is a very interesting conversation, and I would tend to agree with the other commissioner comments about it. This area is a very special area, and I always struggle when I don't hear directly from the council person at this meeting. I did hear that they had a couple of meetings. I live in that district, so I don't remember getting anything about it. But at the same time, I would struggle with the way it has been presented and that it doesn't meet the T2 policy. I think that Nashville Next recently looked at all of these policies, and I would agree that this is a policy that we should stick with and support the staff recommendation to disapprove it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, Commissioner Allen.
I had a quick question. I do agree with the comments that have already been made from other commissioners. I wanted to ask about the first condition. Permitted usage shall be limited to building contractor supply. Does that change the use at all from industrial to commercial, or is that just kind of limiting the intensity of the industrial use?
That's the use that they have been practicing and that they've described in the SP, and it's an industrial use per the zoning code.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments, questions? Yeah, Commissioner Smith.
Let's start out there. I think it's probably, a little redundant. I think there are some mitigating factors. I think it is close to the commercial. And I think the SP would probably be the right way to do the zone change. But just like I've been pretty supportive of kind of upzoning where that meets the policy, even if it doesn't meet the surrounding area. I think it's probably tough for me to support that one. It's so kind of clearly against policy. So I think I'm with everyone here.
All right, any further thoughts? If not, I will need a motion.
I would move that we disapprove, that we accept staff recommendation to disapprove.
Second.
That is a proper motion that we approve staff's recommendation to disapprove this item. Okay. Motion moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The item is disapproved. Okay. No clapping, please. Thank you. Just going to let everyone else. We have a little technical issues to work through. Okay, sorry about that. We are going to go ahead with item number 17. And as a reminder, this is one we have heard, but the public hearing is remaining open. Is that correct?
My name is Sarah Cook, presenting item 17 on your agenda this evening. This request is to approve a UDO major modification to a portion of the Carruthers Crossing UDO. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. As a reminder from last meeting, this slide shows the Carruthers Crossing Urban Design Overlay UDO Regulating Plan, adopted in 2005 and amended in 2007. It illustrates the arrangement and densities of residential housing types, commercial, open spaces, waterways, and public buildings. You can see in the upper left corner of the screen, outlined in yellow, the site of the UDO where the modification is being requested. Note the school building in purple and the illustrative roadway network shown in white. The UDO also specifically states that actual detailed plans are subject to constraints and conditions that may arise in the call-out box there. Variations to these standards may be approved by the Planning Commission where physical site constraints exist, provided that the result meets the design intent of this UDO. Physical constraints include, but are not limited to, topography, mature vegetation, and other sensitive environmental features. At the previous Planning Commission meeting heard on April 10th, the Commission was asked to consider two modifications. Those were, 1, not to provide a public road through connection to Patcham Drive on the eastern portion of the site, and 2, to relocate the access from Clement Street, as shown in the original UDO, to Fairchild Circle, indicated by the star. During the 2-week deferral, the applicant has revised their submission and is now proposing a one-way in, one-way out private access drive off Clement Street to better align with the UDO's regulatory plan and make use of existing road infrastructure. This means that modification 2, the through connection, public road through connection to Patcham Drive, is no longer being requested. The only modification being considered this evening, the relocation of the access from Clement Street to Fairchild is no longer being requested. The only modification being considered this evening is to not provide the public road through connection to Patcham Drive. It should also be noted that the Planning Commission requested that staff work with Metro Parks to better understand if an access drive through the park to the north of the site could serve the school. Commissioner Henley, in his role as Parks Board representative, consulted with planning staff and Parks leadership in this regard. Due to unique topographic conditions as well as current operations, a new private drive would likely create operational issues for the park and require significant disturbance and tree removal, impacting the core functions of the current park without providing for a broader public benefit for park users. Therefore, Parks is not supportive of a private access drive to the school, and planning staff concurs. Here is the current layout that is being proposed. The access to the site is now proposed from Clement Street as shown in the UDO, and is also more in alignment with existing infrastructure implemented in earlier phases. The upper left image shows the stub out on Clement Street that was put in place to provide future access to the school site. The bottom right image shows the intersection of Carruthers Road and Clement Street. Carruthers Road widens at the intersection with Clement Street to provide for future turn lanes from Carruthers Road onto Clement Street in anticipation of access to the school site. There was recent traffic calming installed on Carruthers Road and Grace Point Lane, which is outside the parameters of this image. These include quick-build flexible delineator bollards and pavement markings implemented at this intersection specifically as an interim measure to reduce pavement widths and speed. It has been confirmed with NDOT that some of the bollards and striping will need to be removed to accommodate bus and school traffic as originally intended by the UDO. But the traffic calming on the remainder of Carruthers Road and Grace Point Lane will remain in place. NDOT has memorialized this requirement in a condition of approval for this modification. The base zoning for this site is MUL and a small portion of RM9 in the upper left corner. The proposed school site falls under the community education land use, which is defined as instructions on an elementary, middle, and high school level. This land use is permitted by right within the MUL zoning. Information on the school and facilities is provided on the screen and in the staff reports. Additionally, as part of the original UDO conditions of approval, the property owner was required to offer the site to Metro Schools for an elementary school, and the site was subsequently offered but was not accepted by Metro Schools. The overlay itself does not give Metro the ability to enforce certain instructional characteristics, such as grade levels, on a land use that is otherwise fully permitted by the zoning. At the previous MPC meeting, the commission requested more information on trip generation and queuing for pickup and drop-off. While staff and the Planning Commission cannot regulate the type of community education facilities, the applicant has designed the site to mitigate traffic generation from the K through 12 school by accommodating all buses, seen in red, and vehicles seen in blue, on site with staggered pickup and drop-off times. An MMTA multimodal transportation analysis, which replaces the Traffic Impact Study, the TIS, has been reviewed and approved by NDOT with specific conditions that can be seen in the staff report. The underlying policy in yellow is T3 Suburban Neighborhood Evolving. Wrapping the site in green is conservation policy intended to preserve environmentally sensitive features. This exhibit shows an analysis of the original UDO road alignment with the public through street. There is a stream and a 30-foot buffer wrapping the site, 3 wetlands, and steep topography at both access points. These areas roughly align with the conservation policy as seen on the previous slide. Returning to the major modification request at hand, which is to remove the public through road connection from Clement Street to Patcham Drive to create a one-way in, one-way out private access drive. Here's a summary of the analysis on previous slides. The conservation policy encourages minimal or no land disturbance in environmentally sensitive areas. The site has 3 wetlands, a stream, a 30-foot stream buffer, steep topography on site, which aligns with the designated conservation policy area. The urban design overlay shows that Clement Street is the original proposed access to the school per the Carruthers Crossing UDO. The overlay also states that exact configurations and road alignments are subject to site constraints and conditions. Traffic impact mitigation of the proposed by right use includes an MMTA, a multimodal transportation analysis, with proposed traffic mitigation measures within the Carruthers Crossing UDO as a whole that are memorialized in 6 NDOT conditions for approval of this modification. Additionally, pickup and drop-off queuing are further mitigated by staggered pickup and drop-off times and lanes dedicated for bus and vehicular queuing on site. Given the significant topography of the site, the sensitive ecological features of the streams, wetlands and buffers, the conservation policy, the stated illustrative nature of the UDO regulating plan, The traffic impact mitigation measures, as well as the proposed NDOT conditions stated in the report, staff finds that the proposed private access road from Clement Street is consistent with the intent of the UDO.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go ahead and start the public hearing. Is the applicant here? Thank you. You'll have 10 minutes and you may hold back 2 minutes for rebuttal.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is John Gorham with Barge Civil Associates. We are at 6606 Charlotte Pike. As Sarah talked you through, as a reminder, we were here 3 weeks ago, had a lot of discussion about this site. Some of the basics that we talked through was that this site is 23 acres, zoned MUL. It's on the northern border of the Carruthers Crossing UDO, and it also borders the southern edge of Cane Ridge Park. When we were here before, as Sarah said, we had 2 modification requests that we were talking about. One was the request to not build a public road through the site. We talked about a lot of reasons for that, the topography, the 3 protected wetlands, the 2 streams, the mature trees that are on the perimeter of the site that we didn't want to disturb. So that was our first modification request, and the second was the access point, which at the time we were requesting off of Fairchild Circle instead of Clement Street. So in that time, we've had time to kind of restudy the site. I think there was really 3 things that came out of the Planning Commission last time. The first was, again, that Parks wanted to reconsider whether or not an access point could go through Cane Ridge Park. That was really important to the neighbors, so they wanted to take time and make sure that those discussions still happened. We understand those discussions did happen with park leadership, and they've confirmed that they're not comfortable with an access drive going through the park. The second thing that we really heard from the neighbors at the last meeting was they were uncomfortable with the access point on Fairchild Circle. We talked about previously some reasons why we felt like that was the best access point. Part of that's due to the grade difference between the street and the road. Part of it was due to the fact that there was already an existing culvert there, but we heard loud and clear from the neighbors that they were uncomfortable with it. And in the 3 weeks since we were deferred, Tennessee Nature Academy has had 2 more public meetings with the neighbors, 1 virtual, 1 in person. And we have gone back and had a chance to kind of redesign the site, relook at some of our grading relationships, rework some of our stormwater strategies, and have been able to rework the site plan with the drive access from Clement Street, while still keeping our ADA access, which kind of ramps down into the site, which we have to have. So the plan in front of you has the Clement Street connection, which we hope will alleviate a lot of the concerns that the neighbors had before. The third thing that Sarah mentioned that the Planning Commission asked us to do was take really a deep dive into our queuing and our access. You saw the exhibit that was up before with the red and blue. So in this school, about 60% of the students ride the bus and about 40% come by car. So we've got 2 separate loops to make sure that they can act independently. The red loops that you see, the red spots on the loop are the bus queuing spaces with about 50 to 55 students per bus. That's about 5 or 6 buses that are needed to serve this population. So they're able to queue at the kind of northern loop that you see there. And then the southern loop is the cars that are queuing for drop-off and pickup. Again, it was important to the community that we really look into this to make sure that the queuing was not going to back up the drive into Clement Street and block traffic. So we work closely with planning staff and NDOT on that. And then also just wanted to remind everybody that we do still have the NDOT conditions of agreement that we're supportive of. Some of those include $50,000 contribution to a new traffic signal at Carruthers Crossing and Battle Road, which is important to the neighbors. Also some retiming of this existing signal at Burkett Road and Battle Road to help that function better. Also some miscellaneous traffic calming and pedestrian improvements that Sarah mentioned. So we appreciate the Planning Commission's time looking at this. We appreciate planning staff kind of helping us work through these changes and get to this point. So we'd be glad to answer any questions you have, and we'll save our time for rebuttal. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, is there anyone here speaking in support of this item? If you'll come forward and go ahead and line up. You'll each have 2 minutes, and just start with your name and general vicinity where you live.
Okay. Hi, my name is Daniel Larson. I live on Fairchild Circle in Carruthers Farms. Thank you, Vice Chair, Director, commissioners and staff for the time to speak. I support the removal of Patcham Drive from the Carruthers Crossing UDO as submitted by Tennessee Nature Academy. As far as I know, no one in the community supports a connection to Patcham, which is pretty much the only thing being considered here tonight. I think we agree on that. My oldest son goes to the school, and my youngest son will join next year. I've been involved in the community meetings with the school, parents, and neighbors, and the HOA is not opposed to this change, and the school village, as written in the UDO, has been on the books for almost 20 years. Everyone who bought single-family homes or condos or townhomes in this neighborhood over the past 6 or 7 years has been aware of the school or has had the ability to be aware of the school being community education permitted by right in MUL zoning for the property at Clement Street and Winding Creek Drive. So I'm excited for a free nature-based public charter school to be in my community. I support the removal of Patcham from the requirements of the UDO, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name's Jay Renfro. I live in District 33 off of Pettis Road. I'm the principal of Tennessee Nature Academy. The health and happiness of the students is my biggest responsibility, and I think this plan protects them getting to campus and while they're on campus. I want to speak to some of the community conversations that I've been a part of that have helped inform this proposal since our last meeting. First, we met with the neighbors of Carruthers Crossing, which is a self-appointed, though not community-elected group that helps encourage the responsible development of their community. During this meeting, we looked at all the possible options of how we can get students to campus, and we had them rank their preferences from most desirable to least desirable. With the parks options being off the table, the Clement entrance was their highest option. It was our third option. We thought that Fairchild Circle was the better option, but we recognized the importance of participatory democracy and community engagement. Afterwards, we had a second meeting, which was a virtual meeting that included all of Carruthers Farms, and, well, not all of them, but was open to all of them, and Cane Ridge Community Center to capture the greater Cane Ridge community. At this meeting, we presented the same information, and we sent out afterwards to the residents a pre-recorded video that broke down the pros and cons of going off of Clement and Fairchild, followed by a survey where folks could voice and give us feedback. What we've learned in this process is there's not one clear, cohesive voice coming from the Carruthers Farms community. And so initially we had submitted from Fairchild, and there were a lot of residents on Fairchild who did not want the drive. So then we moved it back to Clement, and now the people who live off of Clement wish that it were off of Fairchild. So we recognize that it's a difficult situation, but we do think keeping this entrance where the UDO had it ultimately is the biggest compromise that we can make to the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Hi, come on forward. You have 2 minutes, and you can start with your name and where you live.
Hi, my name is Brandon, and I am in 6th grade, and I live in the community, and I encourage you to support our school because our school is very unique, unlike other schools, because some schools don't let us go outside that much, but our school lets us go outside every period for 15 minutes. A lot of our classes are outside, which is why we want to keep as many trees as possible, so please support this plan so we can keep more trees. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Hi, my name is Jordan, and I live in the community. I encourage you to support our school because our school is very cool. It's unlike other schools, like public schools. we don't get to go outside much. We're mostly inside, and at this school, after our classes, we get to go outside and loosen our body up. But at the old school, we had to go straight to our other classes, and I couldn't really get any work done. But here at this school, I get to get a lot of work done. I get to have a lot of fun, and we'd like to keep as much grass as we can. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good job. Hi. You start with your name and tell us where you live.
Hi, my name is Jorge, and I am a sixth grader at TNA. I love my school because we are able to go outside and learn in nature while being in our class while learning. My friends who go to other schools aren't able to go outside as often and don't get much privileges because it isn't safe for them. I would like you to support this plan because it gives us more space for our school and more fun. And I'd like you to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good job. Hi.
Okay, I don't know how to go after that. My son was here last time, but he's not here this time because he just finished a 2-day camping trip with the school, so he's a little exhausted. But my name's Erin Powell. I'm a homeowner in Carruthers Farms, and I support the driveway modification amendment to the current UDO, removing Patcham Drive. There's a couple of different things that have already been spoken that I'll reiterate. The school and the neighborhood fully explored 6 different options in the last 3 weeks. I was a part of both of those meetings, both the private meeting and the public meeting. And the fact is the school is entitled to access their property through the neighborhood as it was originally designed. The second one here is that TNA, as mentioned, has explored traffic queuing. They've talked about lots of different strategies to help calm some of the traffic concerns that the neighborhood has. There is also a small subgroup that hopes to continue the conversation with parks. We understand that an access or a road to the school from the parks is not going to be permitted, but there's lots of beautiful examples in Nashville of partnerships between parks, schools, and neighborhoods, and we would love for those conversations to be able to continue as we welcome the school to our community. Finally, there are buses that come through our neighborhood today because there are students there that attend Metro Public Schools. And so looking at those bus routes, they actually bypass the current street calming that goes through the main street on Carruthers. So perhaps that same route could be used by Tennessee Nature Academy as well. So continuing to delay the approval would only harm the school's ability to be able to open on time in the next 18 months. And I encourage this group's leadership to be able to help us move forward today. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Yarden Borlas. I am a founding teacher at the Tennessee Nature Academy. I teach 5th grade science, and I also teach a nature exploration course. I moved all the way from Canada to teach at this incredible school. The boys said it's unique, and it truly is. I'm so fortunate to work at a school that is so aligned with my values, and I think the values that so many people in this room share. Kids are outside, they're connecting with nature. Their phones are away, they're connecting with each other. They have the opportunity to take risks and resolve conflicts. And it's just such an amazing place. It's for this reason that I really encourage you to support our plan because, as I mentioned, I teach a nature exploration course, and the preservation of as much green space, wetland, woods is vital to our school's mission. Those areas are my classroom. That's where I take kids to teach. And if we have to, cross over a big road, or if we've lost some of that area, we've lost the opportunity to really fulfill our mission as a school and to provide students with as deep a possible connection with the world that they are studying. I would also like to reiterate that right now we're in a really tight spot. We're in a beautiful location, but if we're delayed, we're going to have kind of a hard time fulfilling our mission and really getting to the work of what we're supposed to be doing as a nature school. So I would just encourage you to consider that if our wetlands are broken up, or if there's a road, we just won't have access to the spaces we need. And as you can see, a lot of our kids are real little. So when I'm taking them across the street, if it's a public road or if there's cars coming, I just don't have the freedom to send them out and let them have the adventures that they need to have in order to get the educational experiences that we're trying to offer for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? If not, those wishing to speak in opposition, if you can come forward and line up, you'll have 5 minutes. Others will have 2 minutes if you're not representing an organization.
Good evening, Twanachek Cane Ridge Community Club. I stood up in the support section last time, so I'll even it and do the other side this time. We voted to support the school with the Tennessee approval, but we have some concerns to get to tonight. Just listening to staff's report about all the challenges with this property, it's a little crazy when you hear all the wetlands and the mature vegetation and the streams that this was gifted, and offered to Metro schools. That I don't think they would have ever accepted it. We're still pushing for the right thing for the community. We're not asking for a deferral, getting rid of Patcham. That makes sense. But there are still things to talk about. Back on the 10th, I requested 3 conditions: a neighborhood meeting, an address trigger for a nearby property, and a requirement for quarterly meetings. And since April 10th, we've communicated several times with TNA and with residents. We've met in lengthy small working groups with all those folks. We've had public meetings with residents, with TNA, and with Councilmember Lee. We solicited and received input and feedback from Metro Parks, and we have repeatedly reviewed the original UDO. And we have done what we do best, which is look way, way, way outside the box for solutions. Metro Parks Commission and leadership doesn't support the alternative vehicular entrance through the park, but discussions are still ongoing about a pedestrian access. Some apologies in advance. It's a little confusing because there's the larger UDO that was approved nearly 20 years ago, which included land for a school, and then the UDO back then, it had unanimous council approval for a very specific phasing plan to reach a very specific vision. And tonight's school is impacted by that UDO and those build phases that are still ongoing, and it's expected to go on another 10 years. After hours and hours of review and studying and conversations, the 2 conclusions that most agree on are that, 1, the gift of this particular piece of challenging property with its steep slopes, creek, wetland, and lack of access to a non-neighborhood roadway comes at a really high price to TNA, and they have no choice but to accept the gift. And number 2, those who are developing the UDO are not doing so in a way that matches the vision or the order of the original UDO, and that's now causing cascading problems for TNA and for Carruthers Farms residents. As a footnote, others are going to explain to you how there should have been an alternative major town center roadway, which by now would have alleviated most of that current traffic. I'll additionally note an observation that there have been numerous small changes over the course of 15 plus years, which, if they are viewed as a totality, they are significant changes, and more changes are being sought at this time. There have been many, many incremental changes which taken together would have been viewed as major. If planning staff had been asked to consider everything at once, it would have been major. I don't believe these little incremental changes spread over 20 years being viewed as minor was the intent of designating minor versus major. We all agree that the entrance from Battle Road to the TNA site is the best option for the community, the students, and the expected future traffic plans. So this might be our final chance to ask you for some help, and we've got some things we're asking for, some conditions to reach that goal. The note for 7107 Battle Road, requiring the quarterly meetings, and asking planning staff to review changes that are being discussed today and view them as one long change, so it's a major change. This will give the community and our elected council representative a voice and help us solve the issues together. And please add any other conditions that you can discover that might facilitate the opportunity for future development of an entrance other than Fairchild or Clement, an entrance over to Battle to provide relief to these residents. So the big thing is we'd like you to revisit the UDO and view that as a major plan change so that the original vision can be attained, and so it's good for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Dave Whistler. I live at 1988 Carruthers Road, and I'm a member of the leadership team of Carruthers Crossing. We are not opposed to the school. We're only opposed to the access route. One of the earlier speakers mentioned that the HOA was not opposed to the access. Our HOA is controlled by the developer, and the residents have no input on it. And the HOA has not expressed an opinion on the access. What we are asking the Planning Commission to do is defer action in order that we determine if the school can be accessed directly off Battle Road, since we have been informed that the park is no longer possible. Allowing the school access through our neighborhood will cause harm to our community. We believe that rushing to make a hasty decision will be detrimental to all stakeholders involved. We make this request for the following reasons. The phasing of the urban design overlay has not been followed, causing harm to our neighborhood. The proposed access is not consistent with how other high schools in Nashville are accessed. The recommended conditions will result in the destruction of recently installed traffic calming measures, and we have studied the impact of the school's traffic on our community and have calculated that it will bring 1,400 additional car trips into our neighborhood every day. Regarding noncompliance with the UDO, the original UDO provided that the development of the Carruthers Crossing area was to take place in phases that would provide for the creation of an orderly neighborhood that was not burdened by an overwhelming traffic problem. The plan was for a town center road through a commercial area which would divert traffic away from the residential area of the neighborhood. However, that road has not yet been built. The town center road was supposed to be constructed as part of phases 4 and 5 of the UDO. Currently, phases 6, 7, and 10 are under construction. Currently, people traveling on I-24 use our neighborhood as a shortcut to get to Brentwood and South Nashville. This results in bumper-to-bumper traffic every weekday morning between 7 and 8:30 a.m., which is exactly when the students will be arriving at the school. This has caused an overwhelming problem in our neighborhood. Had the phasing problem been followed and the town center road completed on a timely basis, we would not have this problem. Because the phasing plan has not been followed, our community has been harmed. We don't feel like anyone is looking out for our residents. Instead of easing our problem, adding this access route only makes our problem worse. Briefly touching on the proposed access, the high schools in Nashville are typically accessed via an arterial street or intersection of two collector streets. This is due to the hours of operation, student population, types of activities, and safety issues. We have looked at the location of 33 middle schools and 33 high schools in the Nashville area and did not find a single school that was accessed through a neighborhood subdivision such as proposed in this case. We challenge the Planning Commission and the Planning Department to provide us with an example of a high school constructed in the last 30 years that is accessed in a similar manner as this proposal. As mentioned earlier, traffic calming. We finally got traffic calming and it works well. Installing a turn lane as one of the conditions will result in the destruction of this traffic calming measures. And regards to additional traffic, we calculated the impact of the school's traffic on our neighborhood. We took the enrollment numbers provided by the school and multiplied by national averages for students arriving by private car. We determined that it would result in approximately 1,400 additional trips through our neighborhood due to parents making round trips, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Others wishing to speak in opposition? If there's more that's planning to speak in opposition, if you could go ahead and line up, it'll just help us with keeping going.
I'm a 2-minute speaker.
Yes, okay, thank
I'm
you.
Terry Taylor, 1515 Winding Creek. As has been alluded to previously, the UDO for Carruthers Crossing called for a phased development that included the realignment of Carruthers Road in order to minimize traffic disruption in Carruthers Crossing. The phasing strategy called for minimal disruption to what it called this vital collector. So the construction of what is this town center road, which would have created a connector to Battle Road, has not been built as intended. By circumventing this vital connector, Carruthers Road has become the only Battle Road access for surrounding communities and a bypass when congestion occurs on I-24. As the Carruthers Crossing development expands, so does the congestion in our neighborhood. So now to this existing bottleneck, we're adding a high school. In order for our neighborhood to be safe and livable, we believe there needs to be outside access to TNA. The Carruthers Crossing developers bear responsibility for this traffic crisis. They should be held accountable to follow the original UDO schedule and construct the additional planned access to Battle Road. It also seems more than fair to insist that the developers explore options to provide outside access that TNA deserves.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Bill Cross. My wife and Kim have lived on Winding Creek Drive for about 2.5 years. Our home is southern doors down from the stub out for the Clement Road that is supposed to go across to the school. We face the green belt that will be between us and the new school road as well. Understand that the road will be used for construction and be the only road to the school when it opens. A substantial piece of that green belt will be cut down. You can see it already. There's been markings on the trees and so forth. So we're really concerned about that. We bought the home as a retirement home, generally concerned about the location, and that will soon be congested, noisy, and hazardous in some ways. It's a very small road. It's 22 feet wide, and to put 1,400 vehicles through that every day, to me, doesn't make any sense. To drive all this traffic through there every day doesn't make sense. It's only gonna make people try to get detours into there and so forth, and I guarantee you there's gonna be a bumper to bumper in front of our house every day, morning and afternoon. It just doesn't, if you could look at it, you could see that it just doesn't make any sense to pipe all that traffic into this residential area. There's gotta be a better way. Yep, I'm running out of time. I'd just say one more thing. We support the school. One of my grandsons goes to a magnet school in Nevada. I think it's a great idea. I think if we do things the right way, everybody can be happy about this. And this school can be a gem for our community. It's turning out to be a disaster in some ways with the traffic routing. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Hello. My name is Michelle Castro. I live in Carruthers on Fairchild. I got emotional last time that we were here, and I am going to keep it together this time. But my passion for my community and my neighbors is still very strong. I personally really like the concept of TNA and what they're doing for and with their amazing students. It's incredible. I join many of my neighbors when I say that I welcome them coming to Carruthers Farms. I just don't want to sacrifice us in the process. And while the school wants to start building now in Carruthers is not ready for the school. I don't mean that the residents are not ready for the school. I mean that it's very clear that the infrastructure at Carruthers is just not there yet. I also ask you to please keep in mind that just because something is presented as truth doesn't mean that it is. And I ask you to please call for and require detailed discussions and site visits with the city's experts so that they can speak to everything that's going on and what would be the best plan there before allowing such a huge project to get underway in our residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, I'm not sure, can you hear me on that? Because I know I'm a little short here. I'm Sherry, and I live on Fairchild Circle. And my major concerns of having the school there, and it's not the school itself, because I believe that the school is a great thing. I really believe in having good school systems for children is major, and it will have a major impact on their lives as they continue to grow. My concerns are at a molecular level. I live directly across from the park, and I hear squealing of tires all the time. I hear loud music all the time. This, to me, is a major impact to my personal living and quietness. There's also a safety level that comes along with living across from the park and having access on Fairchild. That safety for me is we've already had homeless people staying in the hallways of the condos in which I live on Fairchild Circle. That's a major concern. Very appreciative of the calming measures that have taken on Carruthers Road, although it has created a big bottleneck. I see 3, 4, 5, 6 dump trucks on a regular basis coming down through there. The diversion of the traffic from people in Rutherford County are taking a left on Fairchild and a right on Winding Creek, speeding all the way down to Oak Hill, over to Carruthers Farm to get into Rutherford County. There's a lot of riffraff that I've seen cars coming through, which is concerning. And I'm concerned about just the safety of the neighborhood for us. And I also want to ask you to consider the budget for Metro. Have you considered the capacity for the police to have people come in and out? May I finish?
Just finish your sentence and that's...
Okay. Will there be parking for the school that doesn't use our neighborhood? Will there be one-way streets in our neighborhood? Do not enter signs? Okay. I would just ask that you go back to the original UDO plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Mike Bohr. My wife and I live in Carruthers. While we support the school, we do not support the entrance and exit by way of coming through the community. The traffic on Carruthers, as you've already heard, is terribly heavy. The school traffic will just exacerbate that issue. While I appreciate that they've gone back to looking at Clement, that still doesn't change the issue of all the traffic that will be added that the roads there in our community cannot survive with. So I would be in support of there not being a decision made to allow the access through our neighborhood, but that further work be done to pursue either be it through the parks or through another way off of Battle Road. So thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
I'm Becky. I live in Carruthers Farms. At the last meeting, when I spoke about high schools not being in the neighborhoods, I might have given the wrong impression. And like everyone else here has said, I'm not opposed to the school. It's just the entrance and the exit. being in the neighborhood. Carruthers Farms just does not have the infrastructure to handle the volume of cars and buses that would be entering and exiting the neighborhood twice a day. There are also, I think, 2 other developments in the process that the transportation, from those neighborhoods would be dumping into Carruthers Farms also. So it's just going to paralyze the neighborhood. There just has to be a better way. I just think there should be more study, more just looking at this longer than now, and it's a shame that the Cane Ridge Park can't be used, because I personally don't think that park is utilized very much, with the exception of baseball games. I personally would not walk through that park by myself. It appears to be sort of sketchy, and I think if the entrance and exit for the school could go through there, I think that would be a positive impact on the park, and just, positive for the area in general. Because that park just does not appear to, like there's a lot of people utilizing it, unless they're going in there for some kind of undesirable activity. I've seen people enter and leave that park at really weird hours of the day and night. So that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Please come forward. And if there's anyone else who's planning to speak in opposition, if you want to, please line up just so we.
Hi.
1 minute. Well, did they submit something in advance for?
Submitted pictures, and could you show those on the screen? The traffic pictures? Pardon me? Is this the photos of the bollards and the traffic? Yeah, right. They're included in the packets I passed
Okay.
out, but it'll show you the intensity.
It's not, we don't have it in a
Okay.
place.
Okay.
But if it was in email materials.
We have it in these handouts. Okay. Thank you. Please go forward.
I'm Julie Warwick. I live at 312 Moira Circle, across from the silos, and I'm nervous.
It's okay.
Okay, we the homeowners, we are stakeholders in this whole endeavor. After all, we own our houses, we own parts of the land, we bought it from the developer. And so we are stakeholders in this whole thing. And it's issues like this when you got the developers and different parts of Metro government and all of their different parts in this, and the school. All of these entities, everybody's carrying out their plans and approving stuff, but nobody has any regard for us homeowners. I mean, we've been left out of this conversation the whole time. One of our homeowners approached the school a year ago saying, hey, if you do it like this, the people are going to get mad. And here we are, we're mad. So yeah, this is what you got, because you didn't talk to us in the first place. We could have worked out a really cool, really great win-win situation. And so this meeting here might be the last opportunity for us homeowners to have a voice in this. In the end, with all, with everything going on, it's kind of like we're the ones being run over with all of this. We've said before, we're not against the school, but we do state that this whole thing was just planned inappropriately. It was just kind of rammed through, and everybody just kind of took advantage of whatever they could in doing all of this without regard to the UDO. So again, we're not against the school, but we do want to create a win-win situation for everybody. Using the park, it's still a great idea. People have mentioned the decline of the park, and this would be a great way to revitalize it.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I wasn't prepared to speak, but my husband wasn't able to finish, so I thought I would finish reading his. My name is Kim Cross, and I live on Winding Creek Drive. Here are some of the challenges that we face in this project. A road not designed to be a major thoroughfare is being used as a major thoroughfare because the phasing plan in the UDO to include the town center road was not enforced. There is no timeline for the town center phase currently. Excessive traffic throughout the neighborhood roadways has caused traffic calming to be necessary at a significant cost to taxpayers. Noise pollution continues to be a repeated complaint of neighbors in the traffic calming neighborhood. Pedestrians are unsafe in the neighborhood, particularly during rush hours. Traffic is diverting to Winding Creek, which received no traffic calming, to circumvent the installed traffic calming on Grace Point Road. 18 months of construction traffic through the neighborhood on roads not designed for heavy semi and dump truck use. Negative impact to the greenbelt along Winding Creek and negative impact to home values due to traffic jams and high traffic noise in and around the school entrance. We believe that an access road from Battle Road is the best solution to support the construction and ongoing school operations. We support the school and its focus on the environment. We understand the timeline to complete the school. However, we do not believe that rushing to install a new road that will cause significant and everlasting harm to our quiet community is not a fair and equitable solution to this problem. We ask that all parties take the time to find a creative solution that all can support. The school can be a gem of the neighborhood or a cause for constant concern for our community. Let us take the time to do this so all of us can be proud of the Nashville's TNA addition to the Crothers Crossing family. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in opposition? If not, the applicant will have 2 minutes for rebuttal.
We appreciate everybody's comments. We did want to speak to a couple of them. First of all, there are a lot of phases in the UDO still being built out. So there's a lot of things that we don't control with the future phases. The parcel that fronts Battle Road, we also don't control. So we understand there's ongoing long-term discussions about easements and things like that. But we're just focused on doing a great project with the areas that we do control. A couple things with the traffic calming. So this project has a requirement from NDOT to finance and or construct some new traffic calming. So that will be designed by the experts in the NDOT traffic calming department. So we will reach out to them and sit down with them and let them look at what's installed now and what might need adjustments and what the school needs to finance to enhance the traffic calming that's out there. As far as the traffic, there's some numbers kind of bouncing around on the traffic, but this school is limited by the charter that they have. So there's a couple things. There was, talk about 1,400 trips, but of the 40% of the school riders that are using cars, that's only 274 students. And we know by what TNA is seeing today that there's a lot of carpooling. So generally cars are having 2 or 3 kids. So I think the actual cars coming in and out are going to be tremendously less than maybe what the perception is. And also just the comparisons to a metro high school. Again, this school is capped, and so the student population for the high school would be 380 students. So that's only like 15 or 20% as big as a normal metro high school. So I don't want anybody to feel like we're putting that size of a high school on the site. The last thing I'll say is there's been some requests for quarterly meetings. Absolutely, we probably had a dozen meetings leading up to this point. So the school is ready to over-communicate with the process during construction, process during getting everybody operational and running. So the request for the meetings is 100%. We're on board with that. And as far as the parking, there's just a concern about are we providing parking, and we certainly are providing parking, code parking that covers the teachers, the students, and visitors. But thank you.
Thank you very much. So I will declare the public hearing closed. I thought it might be helpful before we go to the commissioner discussion just to have it restated for the commission exactly what we're looking at and what our role is, because we heard a lot of things that kind of go beyond. So talk maybe a little bit about the UDO and the UDO phasing, and then specifically what we're looking at with this project.
Absolutely. So the role of the commission in a case like this is to review the modification, specifically in this case, to remove the public street connection from Patcham Drive to Clement Street through the property, and instead use a private drive from Clement Street into the site. The land use is community education. There's been a lot of conversation, I think, about the land use at this meeting, but the use is permitted within the zoning district, which is MUL. We provide some additional information regarding the operations in the staff report. If you'd like additional information about the phasing, we can also speak to that too.
It might just be helpful to, since that was a topic that we heard about, to like, what's planning's role in that? Because I think that was a question from the people here.
Absolutely. So a little bit of history. When this UDO was initially envisioned, it was envisioned by a single developer. During a period of financial crisis in the U.S., they sold portions of the property, and basically it was divided up amongst multiple property owners. As part of that, I believe a lot of things in the document are very clear that they are illustrative. They have sort of this nebulousness to them. The phasing plan is referenced in the document. However, the phasing plan is actually indicating that the road you kind of see traveling through the middle of the town center is supposed to happen at a kind of earlier phase. But that property is actually controlled by different people than own this one. So the multiple ownership status of this UDO is a little bit different than initially sort of envisioned, and that's part of the reason why the phases are occurring at different phase timelines. That's because those folks are developing at different timeframes. Lisa.
And to add one thing, I think sometimes you all have seen with specific plans that are maybe larger and multi-phased, you all will have certain triggers for, like, with a certain number of units, X has to happen in regards to access roads and those sorts of things. There are not triggers set up like that for this SP that would indicate that a second access has to be built at whatever number of units, the way that you all have done with some larger SPs.
One last question. Can you just clarify, where is this, the road that was supposed to be the town center road?
Absolutely, Vice Chair. So I'm going to struggle because you obviously can't see this in your screens right now. If you look at the ultimate left of your screen, you're going to see sort of a loop little road. And you can see that that's Battle Road. There are two roads that come off of that. The one on the north side is the one that exists today. Carruthers Road, that's been referenced several times, and that's where the traffic calming that was referenced before is currently, Grace Point Lane in Carruthers. The road that's being referenced as that other connection is the connection on the southern part of that. You can kind of see that on the left-hand side. It goes, that would be east into a town center phase, and then the town center phase, basically, it passes through to the other side and comes out the other end where Carruthers is now too. So that phase is controlled by, I believe, Regent Homes. So not the same property owner as this particular lot is.
Thank you, and forgive me for dominating with some questions to start. Commissioner Smith, would you like to get the conversation started?
Thank you for coming out here today. It's always good to see a lot of community engagement. Thank you so much, Vice Chair, for those questions. They were very helpful. So in looking at this, really the only thing we're looking at is the request to not have a entrance or exit off Patcham. I think that meets with the UDO as written pretty clearly, which allows variance due to physical site constraints, including topography, mature vegetation, protected areas, of which all three of those seem to apply. Everything else seems like it's in the base UDO for the past 18 years, and so I am in full support of staff recommendation.
Thank you very much. Other commissioners? Yes. Oh, sorry. Please, Council Lady Gamble.
Thank you, Chair. I agree that I appreciate the work that's been done. I appreciate everyone who came out today to speak on this, and I appreciate the work that has been done since we met a few weeks ago on this project. I think that the traffic plan, the changes are much better than what we saw the first time around. I do have a question, though, regarding the UDO. I think it was mentioned, and thank you, Chair, for asking about the UDO and how the plans differ from an SP plan. In an SP, we have more control, if you will, on how the stages of the plan go, whereas it seems in the UDO we don't have that. For example, it was suggested in the UDO when this was passed, whenever, that there should be a connection or a town center road from Battle Road, how, I guess my question is, who determines how that's built? Who builds it, when it's built? Is that determined in the UDO? And is there a process where council or anyone can go back and assess how the area may have changed, or assess how that is done like we have with the SP?
So, Councilmember, what I think you might be referring to is there is a section of the zoning code for both PUDs, planned unit developments, and specific plans, SP, that's called a periodic review.
Yes.
And what that is that a council member or a property owner or a neighbor or the planning commission may request that planning staff review and analyze a PUD or an SP to determine if they are active or inactive. And if they are found to be active, it sort of ends there. If they're found to be inactive, then the question would be, what now? And the planning staff could say, we find that the plan is still consistent with policy, it should stay, or we think it should be rezoned. There is not that same tool for UDOs, and likely because UDOs are essentially a design tool that is placed on top of base zoning, where the base zoning controls the uses of what's permitted on the property, and then the UDO is sort of controlling. We've got so many different scales of UDOs. This one did have an illustrative plan. It controls design elements of buildings and those sorts of things. So that is not something that is available or outlined in the code for UDOs.
Thank you for that.
I hope I didn't over-explain, but it felt like I had to get down the road a little ways to get there.
That was perfect. I appreciate that, and that may be something that the council needs to look at, including in the code or amending in the code to add that review process, but currently we don't have that, so that doesn't apply here today. And so, looking at the fact that it meets the policy, it meets the land use, there has been effort to address the traffic pattern. I think the closing of Patcham was a good decision, and the moving the entrance from Fairchild to Clement was a good decision. So for those reasons, I support the staff recommendation to approve with conditions.
Commissioner Marshall, did you have something?
Well, just personally kind of struggling with it a little bit, but I certainly understand policy and the things that, we're tasked to look at. And I appreciate the comments that I've heard so far, because that helped, me kind of settle in my mind what we're actually making a decision on. And so based on that, I also would support staff recommendation.
Any other commissioners with comments? Only two of you left, I guess. If not, then I would be happy to entertain a motion.
Move for item 17 that we approve staff recommendation of approval with conditions.
That's a proper motion. Is there a second? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our discussion items, and let's see, I always forget the order we're supposed to go in now. Historic, Commissioner Smith.
No update. We haven't had a meeting since our last meeting.
Okay. No Commissioner Henley, so we will leave him off the hook. The next item is the Executive Committee report, and I see a bullet that we will have elections on May 22nd. So if anyone wants to take on a new role, new opportunity, please feel free to speak up. It pays more. Okay.
1
And-
cent.
Yeah. And with your seniority, you might like really be able to milk it. And also, I guess we should note, we have a work session before our next meeting on the 22nd, right? I think.
Lisa, do you know if we have did we finalize another work session?
We do. We have a work session set for the 22nd, beginning at 2:30.
Okay. And we did all, am I called on?
It's all you.
Okay, I did want to note, if you look at the calendar of upcoming events, we have a change on July 24th. We're going to be going to the schools for the meeting, and the reason is we are going to have a new system. So thank you to General Services and to council and whoever is making that magic happen, because new AV system. Well, well, anyway, it's time. It's time. Yes.
And that'll be for August also.
That's July and
yeah.
August. The next
Yeah.
two will be
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So we're going to
Yeah.
do 2 more in this, with this location, and then we'll be going to the school district. But I do want to acknowledge the significant amount of work of the folks on the commission who work and who serve at Historic and Parks, as well as council, I guess. I mean, it is double duty, big time, and so we really thank you for your service. And I want to also just acknowledge we're working with the Historic team on integration within the planning office, and those discussions are productive, and we're looking forward to working with that staff. So thank you for your leadership there. And that's all I have.
Councilmember Gamble, anything for you?
Nothing from me.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if that is it, then do I have a motion to adjourn? All right. We'll see you all in a couple of weeks.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.